Hi, I'm Paul Herbert, Professional Water Systems in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Today we're going to show you how to change your cartridge filter. First step, we've got to shut off the water to the system, and in this case you have your 3 valves that are your bypass assembly and your in and out. So we're closing the 2 valves, isolating the system, and we can open up the bypass valve so that water can still be used in the house. Many times if there's a lot of sediment in the water, you could just leave the bypass valve closed so nobody can use water in the house for the next 10 or 15 minutes while you're changing your filter. Next step we're going to do is this is the cartridge filter. To be able to change the cartridge filter, you want to get a bucket, try to locate it some way up underneath the unit to catch the water that's going to come out of the system, and you've got to relieve the pressure on this cartridge. It's not going to come off until you get the pressure off of the system. So if you notice, there's a button on the top of the system that you're going to actually push, and you're going to have water squirting out of the top of this. Once the water stops squirting out, then you're going to be able to unscrew the cartridge. Now that the pressure is relieved off the cartridge, you can use your wrench, and the wrench just slips around underneath the bottom of the housing, and you're going to unscrew the filter housing this direction. As you can see, I've still got some water going. I didn't get the pressure all the way relieved off the cartridge. Now it's loose enough, we can undo it with our hands. Keep in mind you're going to want to support this housing because this cartridge filter with water in it is going to probably be about 3 or 4 pounds. Also, you might want to have a towel nearby because you're going to get some water that's going to come out of the system. This is the O-ring that's making the watertight seal on the top of the filter housing. Don't lose this O-ring. Every 3 or 4 times you've changed your cartridge filter, it's recommended to replace the O-ring. Over a period of time, this O-ring is going to get stretched out and you're going to have a hard time getting it to seat again. So now that this is running, that's just excess water that's in the pipes that's coming back. In my case, I don't really care how much gets on the floor. This is the old cartridge filter. As you can see, this one's been online a couple of months, and with my water quality, I do need to change it every 2 to 3 months because I lose water pressure. You can also see inside the housing, you've got some water and a lot of fine particle. You're going to want to rinse that out. You can see there's stuff inside the filter. We're going to take a paper towel, wipe out the inside of the housing, try to get as much debris out of this as possible. Using a little bit of water to rinse this out is always a good idea. I'm going to cheat. Probably take a bath doing this. But just rinse out as much of the particle as you can off the bottom of the cartridge. Same thing, finish wiping it out. Paper towel. Now the O-ring, we have lubricant that you're going to lubricate the O-ring. I'm going to sneak in on the camera. This O-ring, there's many different kinds of lubricants. In this case, we're actually using a silicone compound, and that won't cause degradation of the filter. Okay, so a nice little bit of lubricant that we're going to put on our finger. Just wrap it around the O-ring. And then you have to get it to sit inside the groove. If you've noticed what we've done here, there's a groove on the top of the housing. This O-ring has to sit flat inside of this groove. If it doesn't, it's going to pop right out and you're going to have a leak. The next step is we're going to put a little bit of just regular household Clorox bleach. This is going to sanitize the cartridge filter. You're just going to use, you can unscrew that for me please. We're just going to put 2 or 3 capfuls of the chlorine bleach. We prefer unscented bleach. And just a little splash, doesn't take much. And then we're going to put our cartridge filter. Now there's many different style cartridge filters available. In my case, I'm actually using a 25 micron down to 1 micron. And I'm trying to do this with one hand. Just slip the cartridge filter in. There's a post on the bottom of the cartridge housing that you've got to make sure that that cartridge filter sits in. Take the filter, making sure that your O-ring is still in place. Slowly step it in and spin it on. Now, you don't need to wrench down, but you do want to get the filter snug just so that the O-ring is being seated. And then what we're going to do is slowly turn the water on. You're going to actually hear it starting to come up under pressure. And I usually like to push the relief button on the top just to let some of the water pressure out. Now, as you can see, I got water squirting out of the bottom, which means I don't have my O-ring set properly. So we have to go through that process once again. Have to relieve the pressure off of this housing. And keep in mind now, this cartridge has chlorine in it, so also not a good idea to wear your best clothes. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my O-ring is not stretched out or damaged. And so my O-ring looks in pretty good shape. Go ahead and put it back on. All right, let's try it once again. Perfect. All right, so the unit's under pressure. I like to take a paper towel, wipe it down, make sure you don't have any more drips. Now we're ready to put the valves back in the proper position, which means we've opened the in valve at a slow pace. Now you've opened your out valve, and you're going to be able to go run the water in the house for a good 10-15 minutes to flush all that excess chlorine out of the water. Let it run till it runs clear, and at that point, you're in good shape. When you change your filter, I always like to take the label and put the date on it when I changed it, and then actually just put it near the filter so I know how often I'm changing my filter.